then the point is the natural follow-on would be a whole lot of, well, who did screw this up and how did it get through the various kinds of review and the regulators and all of this? And the absence of that is what tells you something here is wildly amiss. What's more, in all of the debate about, we don't do science on the Joe Rogan Experience because that's not a venue of science, and you can hardly expect a scientist to engage a non-scientist in an unscientific venue of a comedian or whatever the hell that discussion is. The question is, well, okay,
These people are so not serious.
This is having to be worked out by, Professor of Risk Norman Fenton on his Substack in order for it to reach enough people to matter, right, via DarkHorse, and then who knows what else. But the point is we are being forced to do the work in the places that do not seem like the right place for the work, because the work is not being done in the places that do seem like the right place for the work. And that haunts every one of these discussions, right? Why is it happening on the Joe Rogan Experience? Because it's not happening elsewhere, right? And so anyway.
No, I mean, it's the people who would tell us not to look at the man behind the curtain are doing the same. I mean, we've talked about this before, but I used to start out all of my programs when we were professors, when I was a professor, by saying, what is science? Let's talk that through. And what does a scientist look like? What do scientists have? And, I'd have a slide, be like, oh, a scientist definitely has an advanced degree and probably wears a lab coat and has a lot of fancy glassware, expensive instrumentation, and definitely some big grants, hopefully from the NSF or NIH, depending on, what kind of research they're doing. And like, no, you don't need any of that, right? And in fact, increasingly, the more of those things you have, maybe the more likely that you're actually not doing any science at all. These proxies for science that are useful for those who don't think scientifically, who don't think of themselves as scientists, go like, oh God, I'm supposed to follow the science, I'm supposed to trust the science. We live in a post-religion world. I'm a secularist. I don't know what to believe. I know I'm supposed to trust the science. I'm going to look for the guy in the lab coat over there. Does he have a degree? Cool. Is he tenured somewhere? Awesome. Does he have a lot of grants? Terrific. Okay, I'm going to listen to him. Not the way science works. Just not the way it works. So all you've done is replace one authority for another. And are you surprised that the new authority is lying to you? Well, you're not, because you don't yet understand that the new authority is lying to you, but they are patently, and they have been for 3 years. No, maybe it's closer to 30, but that's what they're doing. So the proxies are not sufficient. That's not what science is. Those people aren't scientists. And the ones who are like, oh, I am an esteemed scientist and I'm not going to go on Rogan. Like, well, you already went on Rogan, dude. Like, what were you doing then if you weren't talking about science?
So I think it is certainly true that that is not science. But the thing that is hard to convey is the degree. We all have an impression of science because we all know that we are standing on a huge accumulated bed of wisdom produced by this method that has made us into the modern creatures that we are, and has provided tremendous benefits and insights, and we feel enlightened, right? That is what happens when science is done properly. But it is the flip side of another coin. Science is so capable, and because of the things that make it capable, it is also extremely fragile, right? It is so easy to do something that is scientific looking in every regard, screw it up in one place, and come up with the inverse of the right answer, because for lots of reasons, because science is done on the honor system, because it assumes that what you're trying to do is be right in the long run rather than get tenure or something like this.
Yeah, it seems you're seeking truth rather than self-adulation.
Right. And so the point is, our system is a complete mess. It happens that at this moment, actually, you are more likely to encounter a reliable scientific claim on Joe Rogan than you are in, the lab
Lancet.
building, the Lancet, for example, right? That does not mean that every claim made on Joe Rogan is right, but it just means that the people who are trying to be right may well be sitting in those chairs on Rogan's podcast. And if you're inside of the academy, it may be that there's an enforced orthodoxy, that you're claiming that sex isn't binary, or you're claiming that these vaccines are vaccines and that they're safe and effective, because if you do anything else, it's catastrophic for your career. So how you can't do science science cannot be done under those circumstances.
And nor
That's the
can
problem.
medicine as, broadly a subset of like applied science.
Yep.
In a world where your medical practitioners insist on referring to women about to give birth as birthing people,
Yeah.
that's not going to be a place where you can go to and expect to hear hard truths. It's not gonna. Like, you already know you're being lied to, and I don't know whose feelings exactly they're protecting. I mean, I kind of do, but why are anyone's feelings being protected over the seeking of truth and the revealing of reality? Sometimes it's going to be ugly, often it's not. But regardless, that's what we are trying to do.
Yep. All right.